Kyle, thanks for taking some time with us. Boy, I feel like I've just been caffeinated after hearing Senator Cruz's remarks. But it'll start out of the gate. What did you think of how he framed the issues? And I know you were here for Chairman Carr's remarks as well. What do you make of where we've been on wireless? And thanks for their leadership.
Well, I'm pretty fired up. I got to get here a little bit later, early in the afternoon, but I was able to see you. I was able to see Chairman Carr. I was able to listen to that speech. And I'm motivated and I'm pumped up. I mean, if you think about our meeting, say even a year ago, we didn't have the clarity of purpose that I'm hearing so far this afternoon. And I thank you and congratulations on coming into the CTIA, and we look forward to your leadership here. Also like to say thanks to Meredith, and I look forward to you carrying on the legacy and moving things forward. But wow, it is motivating, and for someone like me in the industry as a carrier, we all know, and we've heard it all afternoon, spectrum is it's the clay, it's the fundamental thing that we need to grow this industry, and without that, we can't do all the great things that we heard about today. So, wow, I'm really excited and really encouraged about what we can do.
Likewise, and we've talked a lot, as you mentioned, about some of those basic building blocks of wireless innovation, spectrum, infrastructure. I thought we might spend a couple of minutes, though, talking about some of the verticals or adjacencies to that. And Verizon, of course, has been at the forefront of a lot of that, in particular artificial intelligence. I thought you might spend a minute talking about your own vision for AI, how it builds on the wireless platforms, and how your network in particular has been optimized to take advantage of this AI future.
Sure, it was pretty good. Durga was here before me. Durga and I talk a lot, obviously, over the years about what we can do and AI. And what's interesting now is he talked about more intelligence in the network. I mean, sure, the phones and devices are going to get more intelligent. You heard about Ray-Ban sunglasses. You heard what the devices can do, but also the network. We need to enhance the capabilities of the network because it's not only spectrum. What kind of compute can we put in the network? Can we put it at the edge? My company and others like us are working on new ways that we can put compute right to the edge. So when the training moves to inferencing and we really start using the devices, mobily, then we'll be able to do really new and interesting and cool things. And it was interesting, Mr. Carr said, this is going to be, we need to mobilize AI.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to happen. That's not even a question, because if you think this device is you, right? And as we get into the new technologies of AI and what it can do, it's going to be very personalized, and therefore it's going to be mobile platforms, perfect platform to really unleash new and innovations. I take something that the senator just said too. It's really important to understand that there's tangential technologies that come from, the fundamental technology of wireless and mobility.
Yeah.
Once again, having spectrum to be able to have enough throughput, et cetera, that you can come up with new things, you can dream new things up, and then therefore other technology advancements occur. And I can go back in the day where, we were able to stream video onto a device, but the screen was teeny tiny, and it wasn't near the capability that it was today, so nobody watched. So all these new technologies, it just creates jobs. It's great for America. It unleashes more technical innovation. It's great for our economy. And so that's why you always hear, guys like me harping on the spectrum policy, because that is the fundamental thing that unlocks everything else going forward.
I couldn't agree more. And I thought I might double click on the enterprise side. As a consumer, I use AI all the time. I'm checking Grok or ChatGPT or Mindtrip or any of these models. But on the enterprise side, how do you think about some of these verticals from, say, manufacturing to healthcare, and how a wireless network that is really best in class can help address some of those verticals and create value for everybody in the chain?
So in my business, at Verizon, I used to run networks. I'm in charge of the enterprise business now. And what I'm seeing happening is when we go talk to CIOs, everybody sees the promise of AI, and they're trying to figure out how they unlock the AI to really get great benefits for their operations and their firms.
Yeah.
What's coming along with that is a lot of them are saying, listen, I want this to be mobile. I want my solutions not to be tethered in a factory. I don't want to have industrial Ethernet connected. I want to be able to have flexibility. I want to have extensibility into the future when new technology comes, and wireless is perfect. Up until now, Wi-Fi is pretty good if you're just, cruising the internet or something. But if you need ultra high reliability, you need big bandwidth, you need control, then a lot of people are looking for wireless, and private wireless in particular, because they'll be able to control the wireless network, they'll be able to control the policy, in the network, in the core, not only on their campus, but in the WAN overall. They'll be able to bring in slicing. It'll give people a whole bunch of new currencies that they can manage and use and technology that can really help their business move forward. But right now is the beginning of it. And it started, we put 5G networks out a long time ago. I mean, the killer app for us recently has really been fixed wireless access. But now I see these other technologies come into play, like I talked about earlier, and I think we're going to get an explosion of innovation.
I think it's really exciting. I mean, one of my favorite books ever is The Innovator's Dilemma, disruptive innovation. Yes. And that's sort of the constant story of wireless. And I feel like we're just at another inflection point with AI and these other technologies that wireless a generation ago might have been opening up the StarTAC and making a voice call. Now, right. Just sort of unthinkable to see where we're going to be.
Well, that's what's interesting about. I've been in the industry a long, long time, and people ask me all the time, well, what's the next killer app? And I've stopped guessing because I never know. Yeah. Because the pace of change is quick, and it's only getting quicker. And there's so many people innovating, not only in the AI side, but on the wireless side, and even the radio side. And we talk about, you heard the senator talk about spectrum, but it's not only the spectrum we get. The wireless industry has been great steward of the spectrum. So much technology and efficiency have come out of our industry on how you use a minimum amount of wireless spectrum to get maximum out of it. And I think that's lost sometimes in this discussion, because there's other people who sit on it and they really haven't innovated anything forever. Because we have a minimal amount of spectrum, that's spurred us to get better and better at it. And I think you see the growth rates that are coming, that are projected. We're going to continue to need to do that, because it's not only going to just be if spectrum's made available. We as an industry continue to need to be good stewards of that and continue to innovate and get the most out of every megahertz we have.
Absolutely. By the way, you mentioned fixed wireless access. I thought you might spend a second just talking about why that has been such a killer app for so many consumers. And it's sort of unheralded a couple of years ago as one of the use cases, but now we're really seeing it make a dramatic splash in the marketplace.
Well, I mean, listen, if we go back to when we were making the 3G to LTE, 4G transition, DSL was almost kind of de rigueur then, right? I mean, and we're sitting there thinking, like, technically we can absolutely displace DSL and cable with wireless right now. The problem is we didn't have enough spectrum. So you march on a little ways, and then we started working with millimeter wave, and that became something that you could actually use to do it. And there's plenty of spectrum there, but it doesn't carry as far. So working on that, but I remember being at FCC before your time and talking with folks there about, listen, if we can get enough spectrum in the mid-band area, we can actually have a competitive product to cable. Now, there was a lot of doubters and naysayers about that, but I think now if you look at the industry, the wireless industry's been taking 100% market share, 100% share in broadband over the last handful of quarters, and we think that still has room to run. But to do these things, now in that case, it's not so much technology. FWA in itself isn't a big technology, but it creates competition in the marketplace and helps consumers at the end of the day. That's why I get so excited about when we have these inflection points of technologies coming together, because you're really not sure what's going to happen in terms of cool apps or use cases. Definitely.
Are there particular sectors you think are ripe for disruption in this way? Is it healthcare? Is it manufacturing? Is there something else?
It's almost everything. But some of the things that we see right away, healthcare is really starting to latch onto some of this. Because think about, they have a lot of older hospitals, a lot of antiquated equipment. Once again, they need to connect to legacy kind of technologies, and they see the ability that, hey, if I can make these wireless, they're more mobile, I can manage the fleet a lot better, they could be cheaper, and there's other benefits, because you'll have new technology, you'll be able to match the AI along with the devices, new devices, and that'll help doctors be much more efficient in how they treat patients. But I think that kind of thing that you see that we're starting to see with hospitals, et cetera, also applies to IoT in general. Because if you think about AI, it's only as good as the data sets that it has and the data sets that it's trained on. And that data only gets better in the presence of more data and other data. And so I think as we move down the path here, I think IoT gets a bump because we're going to want to really get more data into these models. and you're going to connect up a lot of other devices and things that to this point have really not been connected.
Just incredible to think about. And in terms of private wireless as well, are there any particular use cases there that you've seen as promising, and where is that going to go?
It's interesting. I mean, we've seen, because we're in our shop, we're selling unlicensed private network as well as licensed private network. And the bet being that, just like we all believe, full power spectrum that's licensed is best. And I see people moving from the unlicensed into the licensed. But it's funny, everybody comes at it from a different angle because it depends on the problem set that the customer's trying to use.
Right.
And that's why it's so interesting. I see people using, we have one customer, they run a large farm that they sell flowers on only 2 weeks a year. And so now we've been able to put a private wireless network in, and they can run their operation on that for the 2 times. Before they wouldn't do anything because it was only 2 weeks, but now cost effectively they can run their POS and everything around that, all the way to huge corporations, oil manufacturers, big oil fields and whatnot, where they just wanted it so they can have some of their apps run better, and then some other places that are really using it for really precise location and AI type functionality. But what we're seeing is they come in, they look at it, they're like, wow, this is cool. This really helps out my operation, and they're starting to step up and use it more and more. So I think we're early days in private networks for us, but I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on, because over the coming years, CIOs like to have control of their assets, and they want to manipulate them and manage them in a way that can really benefit their firm. And I see this, along with AI, is going to really spur this up.
That's one of the things I love about 5G and what we anticipated is going to be successor wireless technologies. In the old days, it might have been, look, if you're a consumer or enterprise, you're going to get an undifferentiated product on our terms. And now the consumer is really in the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
And it's more of a challenge, I'm sure, but you're actually delivering a lot more value to meet.
But that's what we want to do, right? I mean, because the other, obviously Verizon, we have a landline as well. So what we're trying, there's a lot about convergence now, where the wireless is coming together with the what we can do on the wireline side with fiber, and then think about all the spare power, space, and cooling we have in all the COs throughout the United States.
Yeah.
If we get I heard the chairman say that too, about you get the copper out of it. If we can get the copper out, you free up a ton of power, space, and cooling. You get rid of a whole bunch of gear that's just way past its prime. Now we can put new gear in to meet the demand that's going to be coming from these new technologies. And that's what's bringing that, to me, that's a really cool convergence between the landline part and the wireless part that we've got going on right now, that's going to build the fundamental platform for new and cool, exciting services to come on top of.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're coming close to time. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you from a business perspective. We've obviously heard some great thoughts about a reconciliation bill that includes much needed auction authority as well as a pipeline. Obviously, CTIA strongly supports that. But the administration, we feel, has been a leader on wireless issues. But if you could speak from a business perspective, not just about why it's important to get these elements into a law, but also to have some certainty about when those assets are going to come to market, because from a financial perspective, you have to model out the return on invested capital. From a network perspective, you've got to figure out how you're going to deploy those assets and when. If you could just talk about the business challenges of incorporating all the great stuff we've heard today and actually ending up with the consumer in real time getting the benefits.
Right, and that's, what you're talking about there is kind of the R&D cycle too, right? People aren't going to invest money into something they do not have clarity on in terms of timing. Because maybe they can wait and spectrum will come way later, or maybe they should do it now. So having the certainty allows people to make bets and invest in this kind of thing. And I heard a stat today that that's why it's so important for our nation, because I heard a stat today, I guess we're 5% of the world population, but we're 25% of the world GDP, and we're like 70% of the world capitalized equity market. So there's a lot of money, and there's a lot of innovation, and there's a lot of opportunity to do great things in this country, but you have to have some certainty for people to make the leap of faith. And so it's not only having and that's what I love to hear, it's not only getting the auction authority back, that's like step one, but it's having a predictable pipeline, like that is key. And we've been living kind of hand to mouth in this country since we started this industry. And thanks to Herculean efforts from guys like you, we've been able to get spectrum. We've been able to stay ahead. I'm not worried about technology and us versus China. I'm a firm believer that whoever gets there first and starts using the technology innovates best on it, and then they're going to get a leadership position because they'll learn. And so we got to stay ahead of this thing. And so having predictability, So investments can happen. We can deploy networks. We can make sure we're getting the best technology available at the time we need it. These are all super important. So having clarity is just super important for us. Well, but now that we're getting over the hump of maybe we can get to the spectrum pipeline here, we can start thinking further ahead and start making that stuff happen.
Absolutely. Well, great capstone to what's been a very insightful conversation. Thank you so much, Kyle.
So much.
Appreciate your leadership.
It's going to be fun working with you.
Look forward to working with all of you in the time to come.
All right. Thank you, Ben.